Silence is one of the most powerful weapons in life. The ability to remain quiet in the right moment can determine your success or failure, your honor or disgrace, your wisdom or folly. Many people lose battles, relationships, and opportunities, not because they lacked ability, but because they failed to control their tongue. The Bible says in Proverbs 17:28, even a fool is considered wise when he keeps silent, and discerning when he holds his tongue. That means silence can make an ordinary person appear wise, and noise can expose the ignorance of a seemingly intelligent person. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is that power is always expressed through words. Many believe that the louder they speak, the stronger they appear. But the truth is, real strength is often demonstrated in silence. The ability to remain quiet at the right moment is a skill that separates the wise from the foolish, the victorious from the defeated. Life has taught us that battles are not always won by the loudest voice in the room. Some of the greatest victories in history were not achieved by shouting, arguing, or proving a point, but by strategic silence. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom in action. It is the discipline of self-control, the mastery of emotions, and the art of knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. A fool speaks everything he knows, but a wise man understands that not everything should be. The book of Proverbs reminds us that even a fool appears wise when he keeps silent. Why? Because silence hides ignorance, but speech exposes it. The more you talk, the more you reveal what you know or what you don't know. Many people have lost influence, relationships, and respect simply because they did not understand the power of keeping quiet. Sometimes, the greatest power you can wield is to say nothing at all. When someone insults you, silence denies them the reaction they seek. When others spread rumors about you, silence forces them to face their own falsehood. When life pressures you to make a rushed decision, silence gives you time to think clearly. The power of silence is in its ability to control the atmosphere. It shifts the focus from the noise around you to the wisdom within you. There is a difference between hearing and listening. Many people hear, but few truly listen. When you are silent, you position yourself to listen to others, to your own thoughts, and most importantly, to God. Some answers are found not in speaking, but in silence. Some solutions come not in defending yourself, but in observing and understanding. Many people talk themselves out of blessings because they do not pause to listen. Have you ever seen a lion hunt? The lion is known as the king of the jungle, not because it is the biggest, but because it understands the power of control. When hunting, the lion does not roar. It moves in silence. It observes. It waits. It calculates. Then, when the moment is right, it strikes. If the lion were to roar too soon, the prey would escape. In the same way, some people miss opportunities in life because they speak before they are ready. They reveal their plans too soon. They argue before they understand. They react instead of respond. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the presence of control. When you can keep quiet in a moment of anger, you have conquered yourself. When you can hold your tongue in a moment of temptation, you have secured your destiny. The greatest battles are not won by fighting with words, but by standing with wisdom. Jesus understood the power of silence. When he was accused, mocked, and insulted, he did not defend himself. He did not argue. Why? Because truth does not need to fight for its place. Silence was his weapon, and because he remained quiet, his enemies exposed their own foolishness. There are moments in life when your silence will do more than your words ever could. Some people are in trouble today, not because they did something wrong, but because they said something unnecessary. Some lost friendships, not because of their actions, but because of their words. Some are struggling in life because they spoke when they should have listened. A wise person understands that words have weight, and once they are spoken, they cannot be taken back. That is why the ability to control your tongue is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. If you want to win in life, learn when to speak and when to be silent. Not everything requires your opinion. Not every insult deserves a response. And not every battle is won with words. The greatest leaders, the most successful people, and those who walk in true wisdom have mastered the art of silence. Because sometimes saying nothing is the loudest statement you can ever make. Not every battle requires a response. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is believing that they must respond to everything. They think that every insult must be answered, every argument must be won, and every misunderstanding must be corrected. But wisdom teaches us that not every battle is worth fighting. Some fights are distractions, some are traps, and some are designed to pull you away from your purpose. The greatest victories are often won not by engaging in battle, but by walking away from unnecessary conflict. There is a difference between fighting for what matters and wasting energy on things that do not. A wise person knows when to stand and fight, but they also know when silence is the greatest defense. Many people lose their peace, their reputation, and even their opportunities because they spend their time responding to things that do not deserve their attention. Look at Jesus. When he was accused, insulted, and mocked, he remained silent. Not because he was weak, but because he understood the power of self-control. His silence was not surrender, it was strategy. He knew that responding would have only given power to his accusers. He understood that truth does not need to argue because time will always reveal what is real. There are people today who are in trouble not because they did something wrong, but because they responded to the wrong thing. They defended themselves when they should have remained silent. They argued when they should have ignored. They reacted when they should have walked away. And now they are trapped in battles that have no reward. Life will always present you with opportunities to react. People will test you, insult you, challenge you, and try to pull you into their chaos. But you must ask yourself, is this battle necessary? Will responding bring me closer to my purpose, or will it only drain my energy? Some people fight so many unnecessary battles that by the time they face a real one, they have no strength left. Have you ever seen an eagle in a storm? The eagle does not fight the wind. It does not waste energy struggling against the storm. Instead, it spreads its wings and rises above it. That is what wisdom looks like. You do not have to fight every battle. Some things are beneath you. Some conflicts are distractions. Some arguments are simply traps to pull you away from where you are supposed to be. The enemy understands that if he can keep you busy fighting meaningless battles, you will never have time to focus on what really matters. This is why people who are easily offended always find themselves in conflict. They are too busy reacting to everything that they never have time to build anything. You cannot live a life of success and purpose if you are always responding to negativity. Some people talk about you behind your back. Let them talk. Some people misunderstand you. Let them misunderstand. Some people challenge you with words. Let them waste their breath. Your response is not always necessary. Silence can be your greatest weapon because it forces the enemy to waste his energy while you remain strong. Have you ever noticed that the most successful people are not the ones who argue the most? They are not the ones who respond to every insult or waste time in unnecessary debates. They are focused. They understand that time is too valuable to waste on meaningless battles. That is why they rise above the noise. You must ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to win? Some people are so obsessed with proving a point that they lose sight of the bigger picture. But a wise person understands that true victory is not in winning every argument. It is in mastering self-control. When you refuse to fight an unnecessary battle, you reserve your energy for the ones that truly matter. Do not let people pull you into their storms. Do not waste your strength proving yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Stay focused. Stay silent when necessary. Stay wise, because sometimes the best way to win is to simply walk away. Speaking too soon can cost you opportunities. One of the greatest mistakes people make is speaking before the right time. Many have lost opportunities, broken relationships, and delayed their success, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked wisdom in their words. There is a time to speak and there is a time to be silent. When you talk too soon, you reveal what should have remained hidden, you expose plans that should have been protected, and you give away power that should have been preserved. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3:7, there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. That means even good words spoken at the wrong time can bring bad results. Not everything needs to be shared immediately. Some things must be developed in silence, nurtured in private, and revealed only when the time is right. When you talk too soon, you give others the opportunity to interfere with what was meant for you. Many people have destroyed their own success by announcing their plans before they were ready. They get excited, they speak too quickly, and they invite opposition before they have the strength to stand. The enemy does not have to fight what he does not know. But when you speak too soon, you expose yourself to attacks that could have been avoided. Joseph learned this lesson the hard way. He had a dream that God would elevate him, that he would rise above his brothers and rule. But instead of keeping it to himself, he spoke too soon. He shared his vision with the wrong people at the wrong time. And instead of celebrating him, they betrayed him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and tried to kill his dream before it could grow. Not everyone is happy about what God has placed inside you. Some will try to stop you before you even start. That is why wisdom teaches us to move in silence. Have you ever wondered why seeds grow underground? Why do plants begin in the soil, hidden from sight? Because growth requires protection. The moment a seed is exposed too early, it becomes vulnerable. It can be destroyed by the sun, eaten by birds, or trampled underfoot. But when it is buried, it is safe. It can take root, develop strength, and prepare for the moment when it is strong enough to break through the surface. Your dreams, your plans, and your purpose are like that seed. If you expose them too soon, you risk losing them before they have a chance to grow. Some people speak too soon in relationships. They reveal their heart before trust has been built. They share their struggles with people who are not ready to handle them. And then when betrayal comes, they wonder what went wrong. But the truth is, not everyone is meant to know everything about you. Some things must be earned. Some truths must be tested. And some words must be spoken only when the foundation is strong enough to hold them. Have you ever seen a builder construct a house? They do not begin with the roof or the windows. They start with the foundation. And in the beginning, the foundation is underground, hidden from sight. No one sees the process, but without it, the house will collapse. In the same way, your success requires a foundation, and that foundation is built in silence. It is built in private. It is built before anyone sees the results. But if you speak too soon, you expose what should still be under construction. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. When you hold your words, you hold your power. When you wait for the right time to speak, your words carry more weight. There is a reason why great leaders do not talk all the time. They observe, they listen, they think. And when they finally speak, people listen. Because their words are not wasted. Their speech is not careless. They understand that what is said too soon can be used against them. But what is said at the right time can change everything. So be careful with your words. Protect your dreams. Move in silence. Let your results speak louder than your voice. Because sometimes the greatest opportunities are lost simply because you spoke before you were ready. And the right words at the wrong time can cost you more than silence ever will. Jesus demonstrated power through silence. True strength is not always found in words. Many people believe that to prove their worth, they must speak up, defend themselves, and make their voice heard in every situation. But the greatest example of power was not in shouting, arguing, or explaining. It was in silence. Jesus, the most influential man in history, showed that sometimes silence is the strongest response. When he was accused, he did not argue. When he was mocked, he did not retaliate. When he stood before Pilate faced with false charges, he did not try to explain himself. Instead, he remained silent. Why? Because truth does not need to defend itself. His silence was not weakness, it was authority. He understood that no matter what was said about him, it would not change what God had already decided. Many people lose their influence because they feel the need to respond to everything. They think that every insult requires a reply, every false accusation needs to be corrected, and every challenge must be answered. But Jesus showed us that real power is not in reacting, it is in remaining in control. When you know who you are, when you know your purpose, when you are confident in what God has placed inside you, you do not have to waste time arguing with those who do not understand. The Bible says in Isaiah 53:7, he was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. This was not an act of weakness. It was a demonstration of power. Jesus knew that his silence would accomplish more than his words. Some people talk their way into more trouble because they do not understand that silence can be a strategy. Have you ever seen a judge in a courtroom? The one who has the most authority is not the one shouting, arguing, or pleading. It is the one sitting silently, listening, observing, and making decisions. The moment the judge speaks, everything stops. Why? Because true power is not in constant speaking. It is in knowing when to speak. When Jesus remained silent, he was showing us that the greatest authority is not always in answering every accusation, but in standing firm and letting time, truth, and wisdom speak for themselves. There are moments in life when your silence will say more than your words ever could. People will misunderstand you. They will misrepresent you. They will say things about you that are not true. But if you know who you are, if you are confident in what God has called you to do, you do not have to fight every battle with words. Some things are better left unsaid. Some battles are won by refusing to engage. Some accusations lose their power when they are not given attention. Many people destroy their own reputation by talking too much. They try to explain, justify, and prove themselves, but in doing so, they lose the very influence they were trying to protect. When you respond to every criticism, you lower yourself to the level of those who do not understand your purpose. Jesus never wasted time arguing with his critics. He stayed focused on his assignment. He knew that time would prove him right, and it did. Today, his silence still speaks louder than any argument ever could. Have you ever watched a lion in the wild? A lion does not waste energy reacting to every noise around it. It does not respond to the barking of dogs. It does not chase after every distraction. A lion understands its strength. It knows that its power is not in reacting to every challenge, but in knowing when to move and when to remain still. That is wisdom. That is power. And that is the example that Jesus set for us. Some people will never understand you no matter how much you explain. Some people are not looking for truth. They are looking for a reaction. And when you give it to them, you give them control. But when you remain silent, when you refuse to be drawn into meaningless battles, you maintain your authority. Jesus demonstrated power through silence because he understood that real strength is not proven through argument, but through confidence. He was not worried about what people said about him because he knew what God had already spoken. And in the end, his silence defeated his enemies. Because sometimes saying nothing is the greatest proof of who you really are. Emotions can make you say what you regret. One of the greatest dangers in life is speaking out of emotion. Words spoken in anger, frustration, or fear can do more damage than any weapon. A single sentence can destroy a relationship, ruin a reputation, or close a door of opportunity forever. That is why wisdom teaches us to guard our words and control our emotions. A moment of uncontrolled speech can cause a lifetime of regret. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something in the heat of the moment and later wished they could take it back? Perhaps it was an argument with a friend, a disagreement with a spouse, or frustration with a colleague. But once the words left their mouth, the damage was done. No matter how many times they apologized, the impact of their words remained. That is the power of speech. Once spoken, words cannot be erased. Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back." That means wisdom is not in saying everything that comes to your mind. It is in knowing when to stay silent. It is in having the discipline to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. Many people have lost jobs, destroyed friendships, and created unnecessary enemies simply because they spoke when they should have remained silent. Look at Jesus. He had every reason to react emotionally. He was betrayed by his closest followers, falsely accused, beaten, and insulted. Yet, he did not allow his emotions to control his words. He remained silent when necessary, and when he did speak, his words carried power. He understood that emotions are temporary, but the impact of words is permanent. If Jesus, the Son of God, could control his tongue in the face of injustice, how much more should we? Many people believe that speaking their mind in the moment makes them strong, but real strength is in restraint. Anyone can speak in anger, but only the wise know how to hold their tongue. Some people have lost opportunities simply because they spoke too soon, reacting instead of thinking. A door that was about to open was closed because they allowed their emotions to lead them instead of wisdom. Have you ever seen a stormy sea? When the winds are strong, the waves crash violently and everything becomes unstable. But when the storm passes, the waters become calm again. That is what emotions are like. Temporary storms. If you speak in the middle of the storm, your words will be unstable, reckless, and destructive. But if you wait, if you remain silent until the storm passes, you will speak with clarity and wisdom. One of the greatest tests of character is how well you can control your words under pressure. Anyone can speak wisely when everything is calm, but true wisdom is seen in moments of frustration. Do you react out of emotion, or do you remain silent until you can respond with wisdom? Many relationships have been broken not because of major actions, but because of careless words spoken in the heat of the moment. And once the words are spoken, no amount of regret can undo them.
A wise person does not allow emotions to dictate their speech. They understand that words have power. They can build or destroy, heal a wound, open doors, or shut them forever. That is why silence is often the best response when emotions are high. If you feel angry, frustrated, or overwhelmed, it is better to say nothing at all than to say something you will later regret. Jesus showed us that power is not in emotional outbursts, but in controlled speech. Even when he was surrounded by enemies, he did not let their words provoke him into speaking foolishly. He remained composed, and when he did speak, his words carried authority. That is the example we must follow. If we can control our words, we can control our future. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say in an emotional moment is nothing at all. Silence gives you time to think before you act. One of the greatest advantages of keeping quiet is that it allows you time to think. Many people have made terrible decisions simply because they reacted too quickly. They spoke without thinking, they acted without considering the consequences, and they made choices based on impulse rather than wisdom. But silence gives you space to reflect, to evaluate, and to respond in a way that leads to success rather than regret. Have you ever regretted something you said or did in the heat of the moment? Perhaps you reacted to an insult, made a promise you could not keep, or responded to a situation without fully understanding it. Later, when you had time to think, you realized you could have handled it better. But by then, the damage was done. This is why silence is powerful. It creates a pause between emotion and action. It gives wisdom a chance to speak before your mouth does. Proverbs 17:27 says, "The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even tempered." That means wise people do not rush into speech or action. They take their time. They think before they respond. They know that not every situation requires an immediate reaction. Sometimes the best decision is to remain silent until you can act with clarity. Jesus demonstrated this principle perfectly. When the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery before him, demanding a response, he did not speak immediately. Instead, he stooped down and wrote in the sand. He created a moment of silence. He did not allow their urgency to force him into a reaction. And when he finally spoke, his words carried wisdom and authority. "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." His silence gave him time to respond with wisdom rather than react with emotion. Many people fail in life because they do not understand the power of a pause. They rush into relationships without thinking. They accept opportunities without praying. They respond to criticism without evaluating. But wise people move carefully. They do not allow pressure to dictate their actions. They understand that silence is not a sign of ignorance, it is a sign of intelligence. It is the ability to step back, to think, and to ensure that every word and action serves a greater purpose. Have you ever watched a master chess player? They do not make their moves in haste. They sit in silence, studying the board, calculating their next step. They understand that one wrong move can cost them the game. Life is the same way. If you rush into decisions without thinking, you may find yourself trapped in situations that could have been avoided. But if you take time to think, to observe, and to weigh your options, you will make decisions that lead to victory instead of regret. Silence is also a shield. It protects you from saying something that can be used against you. Many people destroy their own progress by talking too much. They reveal their plans before they are ready. They share their struggles with people who cannot be trusted. They make promises that their future self cannot fulfill. But when you learn to keep quiet, you give yourself time to test people, to evaluate opportunities, and to ensure that your words align with your destiny. There are people who have lost relationships, businesses, and even their peace of mind simply because they did not take time to think before they acted. They made emotional decisions instead of wise ones. But wisdom teaches us that silence gives birth to clarity. The more you listen, the more you learn. The more you pause, the more you understand. The more you remain silent, the more control you have over the direction of your life. Do not let pressure push you into premature decisions. Do not allow emotions to dictate your responses. Do not speak just because silence feels uncomfortable. Sometimes the best way to handle a situation is to say nothing until you know exactly what to say. Take your time. Think before you act. Move with wisdom. Because sometimes the right decision is made in the space where words are absent. Your silence makes people curious about you. There is something powerful about a person who does not reveal everything about themselves. In a world where people constantly feel the need to speak, to explain, to justify, and to prove themselves, the one who remains silent stands out. Silence creates mystery. It draws attention. It makes people wonder what you are thinking, what you know, and what you are planning. Have you ever noticed that the people who talk the least often have the most influence? They do not waste their words. They do not reveal their thoughts to just anyone. And because they are not always speaking, when they finally do, people listen. This is a principle of power. When you learn to control your words, you automatically command respect. People are drawn to what they cannot easily figure out. They are intrigued by what is not immediately obvious. Proverbs 17:28 says, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues." That means that silence, even when you do not have all the answers, gives the appearance of wisdom. It creates an aura of depth, intelligence, and strength. But when you talk too much, you give people too much access to you. You remove the mystery. You lower your value by making yourself too familiar. Look at Jesus. He did not always explain himself. When people asked him questions, he often responded with another question. When they tried to trap him with words, he remained silent or spoke in parables. He understood the power of making people think. His silence made people curious about him. They wanted to know more. They followed him not because he was constantly explaining, but because he carried something they could not easily understand.
Have you ever been in a room where someone is sitting quietly observing? You find yourself wondering what they are thinking. You are drawn to them, not because they are speaking, but because they are silent. Their presence alone creates intrigue. That is the power of silence. When you speak too much, you make it easy for people to predict you, to categorize you, and to dismiss you. But when you hold your words, you maintain control over how people perceive you. Many people weaken their own influence because they reveal too much too soon. They talk about their plans before they are ready. They share their struggles with people who have not earned their trust. They expose their emotions before they have been processed. But wisdom teaches us that what is hidden is often more valuable than what is easily accessible. Diamonds are found deep within the earth. Gold must be mined, and treasures are not left out in the open for anyone to take. If you want people to value what is inside you, you must learn the discipline of silence. Have you ever wondered why kings and leaders do not speak all the time? Why do they have advisors, spokesmen, and officials who communicate on their behalf? Because their words are valuable. They do not waste them. They understand that the more they speak, the more predictable they become. And the more predictable they are, the less impact their words carry. But when they finally do speak, the world listens. Some people wonder why they are not taken seriously. It is because they have given away too much. They have spoken when they should have remained silent. They have explained themselves to people who did not deserve an explanation. They have removed the mystery that makes them valuable. If you want to increase your influence, you must learn to control your words. You must learn to let your silence speak for you. Silence makes people respect you. It makes them think before they approach you. It forces them to value your words because they know you do not speak carelessly. It protects your plans, shields your emotions, and keeps your enemies uncertain. Jesus understood this. He spoke with purpose. He did not waste words, and that is why his words still carry power today. Because sometimes the less you say, the more people want to hear from you. My friends, the power of silence is undeniable. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is not fear, it is strategy. When you learn to be silent at the right moments, you gain control over your words, your emotions, and your future. Silence protects you from unnecessary battles, shields you from reckless decisions, and positions you for success. Jesus showed us that true authority is not in endless explanations, but in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Sometimes silence will win the battle for you. It will make people respect you, elevate your influence, and allow wisdom to guide your actions instead of emotions. So as you move forward, remember this: not every reaction deserves a response. Not every battle requires your words, and not every moment is meant for speaking. Guard your tongue, protect your peace, and let silence work in your favor. May wisdom guide your speech, may discernment shape your actions, and may your silence speak louder than any unnecessary words. Good luck and thank you.